Hello, my name is Matthew Hunser with Legacy Wilderness Academy, and I'm on a mission to document every edible and medicinal plant in the southeastern U.S. so Southerners can have greater access to nutritious food and free medicine. In today's video, we're going to be looking at one of the most important plants in the southern U.S. for energizing, increasing stamina, and reducing fatigue. It's called the crossvine. So in this video, we'll look at how to identify crossvine. We'll also look at one of its poisonous lookalikes. We're going to harvest some of the plant, we're going to take it home, and then we're going to prepare it into a medicine. Stay tuned. Before we begin, I'll quickly mention that if you want to learn more about medicinal plants of the southeastern U.S., make sure that after this video, you download my free guide to medicinal plants, which you can find in the link in the description below this video. Crossvine is an evergreen vine that grows widespread throughout the southeastern U.S. It can be found in both bottomland habitats as well as upland pine habitats. So it's really easy to find, and you can learn how to recognize it from a distance if you look for it growing vertically up trees. It oftentimes has larger leaves, and those leaves can be found in clusters of 4 along the nodes, sort of fanned out. So you'll notice here that unless the leaves have sort of fallen off, there usually is going to be 4 at each node. So 4 here, 4 here, 4 here. So that's the pattern we're looking for. Now let's go ahead and take a closer look at the leaves. Because crossvine is an evergreen vine, you can find and harvest it throughout the whole year, including in the wintertime. So let's take a close-up look at the leaves. You can see that some of them have started to fall apart here in the fall. This one still looks good. So you can see the general shape. One of the things you want to look for is this little notch at the top. So it has almost like a little heart-shaped base, and that's important when we're comparing it to its lookalike, which we'll look at here in a moment. Another thing that you really want to look for is these little bracts on the inside. So I'll give you a little close-up of what those look like. But right here, where all the leaves come out, there's these little, what we would call stipules, actually, is what the proper name for them would be. And there's 4 of them. So there's 2 at the base of each little leaf. And one of the things you're really looking at for crossvine is that it's 2 leaves across from 2 leaves. So botanically speaking, we would say that each one of these leaves is pinnately compound with 2 leaflets. And you can pretty clearly see what that means here. If I rip off these little stipules, you can see that each one comes out and then it splits into a Y. And there's 2 leaflets, and then opposite from that, there are 2 more leaflets. So 2, opposite 2, that is how to identify crossvine. So the flowers of crossvine, I'll put up on the screen, appear around the month of April, maybe like late March and throughout April. They are reddish or orange on the outside, and then the little like petals themselves on the inside have a light orange or yellowish color. So when you're looking at the flowers, you can mistake the flowers for a couple other plants. One of them we're going to look at has completely yellow flowers. It's the poisonous lookalike Carolina jessamine. We're going to look at that next. Another one we're not going to look at is the trumpet creeper, which has very similar flowers. The flowers of trumpet creeper are completely orange all the way. So they don't have like that like sort of yellowish and red distinction. They're just all orange. They do look very similar because they're in the same family. So the flowers, the shape looks very similar, that sort of trumpet sort of shape. So do be on the lookout for that. But the leaves of that plant look totally different. And so before we look at the lookalike, let's take a look at where crossvine grows. It grows from East Texas, east to the Atlantic, and then north to about Kentucky, and about halfway down Florida. And it can also be found in some cities where it's planted as an ornamental. So outside of its range, you can also find it in Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and then in like Washington, D.C., and a little bit further north there on the East Coast, you can find it in some cities planted as an ornamental. It is a very common ornamental plant. So next, let's go ahead and take a look at its poisonous lookalike, and then we'll harvest some, and we'll talk about its medicinal uses. We'll go prepare it into a medicine. Okay, here are the leaves of the poisonous lookalike, the Carolina jessamine, also known as Gelsemium sempervirens. You'll notice with this plant that it's not 4 leaves per node, it's only 2 leaves per node, so it's 1 leaf across from the other, opposite leaves. You'll also notice that the base of the leaves lacks the little notch. And so the leaves typically are smaller, although the size alone is not enough to distinguish the two. Sometimes crossvine leaves are really small, and sometimes the ornamental varieties, I believe, of the Carolina jessamine can have larger leaves, but it's the leaf arrangement we're looking at. Like I said, the flowers are a similar shape, but they're completely yellow. and they actually flower a little bit earlier in like February and March, although the flowering season of the two plants does overlap a little bit. But there you go. This is a very poisonous plant. It does have some medicinal uses, but it's only for, you know, really advanced herbalists because it is considered a highly toxic plant. So yeah, you definitely don't want to mix this up. And I have seen it actually twining around crossvine. So I've actually seen the two growing like intermingled with one another. So do be very careful when you're harvesting crossvine. Just make sure you familiarize yourself with this and avoid it. Okay, I've harvested a little bundle of crossvine just by ripping it right out of the trees. Pretty easy work. You can see that some of the leaves are quite a bit bigger than the ones we looked at, so they can get pretty big. So next, let's talk about the medicinal uses. So crossvine, the uses of it, I think, were learned from Native Americans by early American settlers. And originally, this plant was more used on animals than it was on people. So back in the old days, you know, when people were using horses and mules for farming, this was a plant that was fed to animals that were run down, that actually would develop a condition called hidebound, in which their hair would start falling out and they would be almost on the verge of death by exhaustion. This plant would rejuvenate them, get them back on their feet, and within a few days, get them back out in the field working. Like I said, Native Americans did use this plant, various tribes for various purposes, but really the records of it still being used into the modern day, we can attribute to the Appalachian herbalist Tommy Bass and his apprentice Darrell Patton. And so around maybe the 1990s, Tommy Bass said, well, it works so well for animals, I'm going to start using it on people too. And sure enough, it works really, really well as a plant that can increase energy and stamina. People, after 3 or 4 days of taking this plant, oftentimes will report back feeling energized physically and mentally. So a very excellent plant for that purpose. It's also considered a mood stabilizer and sort of a calming plant. So it can be a plant that can help with mental well-being as well. Now keep in mind, anytime we're talking about a plant that's used for something like depression or anxiety or fatigue or sleep, we don't want to use it as a band-aid for our bad habits, right? So you can't, you know, not exercise, not have a good diet, not get any sleep, and then expect this plant to just keep working for you. It's not, you know, it's not magic, right? So we do have to change our lifestyle. We don't want to, you know, use any herb, in my opinion, to just constantly be trying to negate the effects of a irresponsible lifestyle. But for getting you back on your feet, increasing your energy, increasing your stamina, helping you get that extra boost of energy and push, a very, very effective plant for that purpose. So a really, really cool plant, and not a whole lot of people know about it. You're not going to find this in a lot of herbal books, I promise you that, but it is highly effective for that purpose. So next, let's take it home and prepare it into a medicine. All right, so when it comes to preparing this plant, you have a couple options. Here I have a crossvine tincture, and I've shown how to make tinctures in other videos, so I'm not going to show it in this video. But if you do decide to make a tincture, you can use 1 to 2 dropperfuls, and you just put it in a little glass of water like that. And you're going to do that twice a day, and you can start there, and then you can, you know, if 2 dropperfuls maybe you feel like it's too much, then you can reduce to 1, or you can start with 1, and then if you're not feeling the effects, you can move up to 2. But about 1 to 2 dropperfuls of that 2 times a day. You can also just take a few leaves, just a little handful, something like this right here, and then boil this up for about 15 minutes or 10 minutes in about 2 cups of water, and then just drink that as a pleasant tasting tea. Crossvine is one of those medicinals that actually tastes pretty good. But let's say we want to make a medicinal strength decoction or tea. We're going to take a quart of water, which is 4 cups, and then we're going to take our leaves and pack it into about 1 cup. So 1 cup of packed leaves. Let's see here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to boil this for about 10 to 15 minutes. So here we go. We'll get all these in here. You can see it's not like, I'm not like pressing it down, you know, like too hard. I mean, that's really like maybe a half cup of packed leaves, but that's probably good enough. I don't want to make it, you know, too strong. This is one of those plants though that you don't have to really worry too much about making it too strong. As long as you're not making like a syrup with it, you know, it's going to be fine. And you can always just adjust the amount that you like. So we're going to go ahead and put that in. I'm going to boil that for about 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, now that it's finished boiling and I've strained out the leaves, my personal dosage for this would be 1/2 cup 2 times per day. There you go. Okay guys, so the rest of this, we're just gonna spread these leaves out and let them dry on the counter over a few days. And there are a couple possible contraindications with Crossvine. Over many years, Daryl Patton has used the plant and found it very safe. The main issue that he's run into is that for some people, it makes sleeping a little bit more difficult, especially if you take it later in the day. So people who are more sensitive to its constituents can have trouble sleeping. And then he has reported 1 or 2 cases of agitation after taking it, sort of like how for some people, if you drink coffee or too much coffee, you can get a little bit irritable or agitated. This being sort of a stimulant plant, a more mild stimulant and subtle stimulant, can in some rare cases cause agitation. So well, besides that, I don't know of any contraindications for the plant. Very safe plant. Not sure if I would want someone who's pregnant to be using it. But probably, well, I don't even want to say one way or another, but you know how that goes. With that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, my name is Matthew Hunter with Legacy Wilderness Academy. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and make sure to check out some of my other videos, which are popping up around the screen. And also make sure to download my free guide to medicinal plants of the Southeast, which you can find in the link in the description below this video. Have a great day.